Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at this. Now this forms the Mannequin of the month for June 2022, and the kit we have on the Mannequin here represents the kit of an Australian soldier, an Australian infantryman serving in New Guinea towards the end of 1944. Now obviously the topic for this was picked via a poll over on Patreon as is typical, and this particular topic topped the poll for this month. So it's nice to be talking about some Australian kit once again. Without further ado, we'll get into the details of what's on the Mannequin here. Starting at the top, as we normally do, we have here a suitably battered slouch hat, as you can see there. Brim turned down, and the puggery has been removed from this as well. So fairly typical Australian headgear at this time. We have an Australian jungle green shirt. Now this is a mid-war shirt, but introduced mid-war. This particular example is dated 1944. You can see this has pointed or slightly scalloped pockets there, with a single pleat down the middle, with a double pleat down the middle rather, as you can see there. This is something which will be covered in more detail going forward. I'll make a separate video looking at that in detail. A little bit of imagination is required with this. Obviously this will generally be tucked into the trousers. Unfortunately I can't fit the trousers on the Mannequin as I have in previous videos. They're just too small in the waist. They fit me, but the Mannequin is just a little bit bigger in the waist, even though I've shaved it down. It's only polystyrene underneath. I just couldn't fit the trousers on, so please ignore the shirt tails hanging down there. It does show you how long the skirts are, how long the tails are on this shirt, however. The web equipment is standard 1937 pattern. This is primarily of Australian manufacture. So you have the braces here, then Australian manufacture, with the 1-inch strap simply sewn into the 2-inch section over the shoulder there. Very simple construction, a simplified version of making these compared to some of the others you'll see, such as the reduction woven technique used by Miko in Britain. The basic pouches again are Australian manufacture. Now these don't really differ from standard basic pouches. The design has not really been modified in this instance, although by this point you're beginning to see the modified enlarged basic pouches coming into use as well, with some in some instances they do turn up in some photographs. We have a standard set of basic pouches here, but again Australian made. We have round slung over the right hand basic pouch here a bandolier carrying more 303 ammunition there for the rifle, of course, this being for the rifle number 1 Mark III Star, which was still the standard arm of Australia at this time. Australia never adopting the number 4 for general issue. They stuck with the number 1 Mark III Star right the way through into the introduction of the SLR, the self-loading rifle, later on in the 1950s. So that's the front of the Mannequin. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other details. Looking at the right hand side of the Mannequin here, you can see the bandolier slung there round underneath the right hand basic pouch. Sleeves have been rolled up. You can see a detail on the shirt here of the epaulette coming down there. And then we have the water bottle round on the hip here, carried on the brace ends, and this is carried in on a modified Australian water bottle carrier. So this again is part of the equipment that was introduced with the enlarged basic pouches and the modified water bottle carrier here. The wider strap around the body of the bottle here allows for the C-hooks, obviously used to attach the pouches onto the belt. The same type of C-hooks are on the back of the bottle, and rather than being carried on the brace ends, this can be attached to the belt instead. It's an option. Australia also modified Canadian-made carriers to fit on the belt in exactly the same way. So it was a part of the design that they altered. However, in this instance, it is carried in the normal manner down on the brace ends using the buckles on each side, as you can see there. Looking at the back of the equipment here, as you can see, the haversack has been removed for an assault operation. So the haversack's been dumped to reduce the weight carried. But obviously, normally the haversack would be carried on the back using L-straps in the standard 1937 pattern configuration that we've looked at in other videos. You can see here that there is a loop on the brace at the back here where they cross over. These, as I say, are Australian made, and they do follow the standard 1937 pattern in that regard. We just tip that out of the way. You can see the wider sections coming over the shoulders there. So that's the back of the equipment set. And then looking at the left hand side of the Mannequin, a detail on the hat here, you can see the snap or press stud there, which will allow the brim to be buttoned up out of the way, but in the field generally worn brim down, as we have here. And then down on the belt we have a frog carrying the bayonet for the rifle number 1 Mark III Star down on the hip there, the 1907 sword bayonet carried in the standard 1937 pattern frog on the belt there, as you can see. So that was a look at this, the Mannequin of the month for June 2022. Obviously, I'm not talking in detail about the New Guinea campaign here, but I can recommend going and reading more about it. It's a fascinating campaign, quite a protracted campaign, and an interesting example of Australia striking out on its own militarily obviously to defend Australia itself, and relying more on US support than the support of British and British Empire forces. And that's something which would be seen post-war as well, its development of a closer relationship with the United States. So it's interesting from that point of view as well. I hope you've enjoyed looking at this, and I hope you found it interesting looking at the kit we have on the Mannequin here. If you have found this interesting and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the little notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel and perhaps have the opportunity to vote on the topic covered in Mannequin of the Month each month, please do consider supporting the channel on Patreon, and PayPal is linked down below as well. The corporal tier on Patreon get to vote each month on what's going to be covered in the video for Mannequin of the Month. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, where of course there will be photographs of this posted up as well, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down below in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.